Rivalry games and chaos on rivalry games. Who would have thought, right? Who except the casual would have thought, hey, we're not gonna have any that good old fashioned chaos on rivalry weekend. It was a fun one, even though we didn't see those monumental upsets that we typically get to see in the college football season. Still brings up a lot of questions, and still at the same time, a couple of games out there that make you raise that eyebrow just a little bit. So that being said, very excited for yet another edition of the Any Given Saturday podcast, and we got a good one here this week. We're going to be talking about these conference championship games. We will go through and talk about every conference championship game, but that's later this week. What we're going to do here tonight, I got a brand new alliteration of the Any Given Saturday Top 25. That power rating is going to be coming out very shortly. There is also going to be a few games out there as well where we are going to sit down and we are going to look at, okay, what are the best bets that are out there in this conference championship weekend? So we got a good podcast here tonight, and it's a podcast that I am certainly excited about here today. And I hope you guys are excited from the bottom of my heart as well. You see that we're a brand new channel as well, a smaller channel, but hey, you know, we're going to fight on and we're going to survive. Gonna be a fun one here tonight, and I hope you guys enjoy today's podcast. If you do, make sure you go ahead, smack that like button for me. Hit that subscribe button as well if you do happen to be brand new to the channel. And with that being said, man, I don't want to waste too much more time, to be honest, here tonight. I want to just go ahead and dive right in because we got some good football that happened over the course of this weekend. How about Florida State, for example, finding a way to win without their starting quarterback, without their leader? They still find a way to win against their rival, and so much more. But with every team now essentially completing their regular season, the only exception being Army and Navy, they'll play their final regular season games, not this weekend, but next weekend. So if you need some college football to hold you over till the bowl season, Army Navy is a good one for sure. But that being said, what do the power ratings look like here for this new edition of the Any Given Saturday Top 25, where anything can happen on any given Saturday? Well, before I jump into this top 25, let me just go ahead and jump in with this anecdotal, this disclaimer. This is not how I would go about ranking these teams if I were somebody that was on the college football playoff board, not a part of that committee. If I was part of this committee, what the rankings are about to see is not how I would go about ranking these teams, not by any stretch of the imagination. Simply, what these power ratings represent is how would I go about moving forward, and who would be favored over whom on a neutral side field. That's what these ratings ask, and that is what these ratings answer here tonight. So we're at the end of the regular season, essentially. Let's go ahead and dive right into it like Trey's songs, and we got some notable movement as we start from the very bottom. Actually, quite a bit of muscle movement at the bottom, to be honest with you. We're going to start from 21 to 25. Starting at number 21 through 25. Listen, multiple teams here of note. How about Utah? Utah is still hanging on for dear life, and it seems like Utah is one of those teams that is simply a team that ran out of gas here in the final portions of this season, right? We've seen Utah, come out, try their very best to go ahead and compete, but it simply isn't enough. The loss of Cam Rising, a team can only stomach that for so long, and then eventually there's going to be a breaking point. Now, give Utah credit, they still found a way to win the game, but they were hosting a Colorado team, and Colorado was on a horrendous losing streak to end the season as well. Colorado, they end their year on a 6-game losing streak. So that was the type of team that Utah was going up against. Kind of perceived as that get-right team, even though Coach Prime's teams, even though he doesn't have his guys yet in the trenches, this is a team that's still going to fight, even without Shedeur Sanders as well, mind you. So, rough one for Utah, They were in a dogfight for sure. The rumble in the Rockies was fun to watch. Utah pulls it out, but Utah not very convincing as we get through the end of this regular season. I still have them ranked in the top 25 in my power ranks. They're here at number 25 for a reason. However, that being said, would I rank them in the college football playoff top 25? Absolutely not. Another team that went out and won pretty ugly, to be honest with you. How about the Iowa Hawkeyes? Iowa able to secure a 10-win season. The Iowa Hawkeyes went out. They got it done against Nebraska, but they moved down 6 spots. So what's going on here, right? They covered. Well, Iowa expected them to win a little bit more convincingly against Nebraska, right? Nebraska was fighting for bowl eligibility. And if you're a team that could be on that tier below of that, what you would call it, the contention of the college football playoff, the model expected Iowa to win a little bit more convincingly than what it actually did. And unfortunately, we certainly did not get that. Iowa needed a last-second field goal in order to win, and that's after their quarterback threw an interception as well. Just an ugly game. Watching Iowa football is certainly an experience. Iowa, they're in the Big Ten Championship. They're going to be taking on Michigan. We'll preview that game later this week, but let me just say this. Iowa does not have a great shot against Michigan. It seems like that's the consensus in the college football community. Iowa going to have to pull off a miracle, especially from their offense, if they're going to come out and win that game in Indianapolis. But speaking of Iowa teams, we do have a new Iowa team jumping in the top 20. Excuse me, I just burped. That's sexy. Jumping into the top 25. How about Iowa State, the Hawkeyes, in a little bit of a snowstorm kind of classic? They were on the road. They were taking on Kansas State, and they found a way to get it done. Was it fun to watch? Iowa State ended up winning 42-35. Yes, that is what the score actually was. Iowa State, a team that's only going to finish at 7-5, but this Iowa team, man, is feeling good going into the last half of the season. This is a team that is going to win 5 of their last 7 games. So, I mean, it was a little bit of a rocky start. They did lose to Iowa. We talked about them earlier, but if these teams were to go up against each other yet again, I would certainly believe Iowa State would be favored if the game were to take place on a neutral side field. They're a lot better today than the team that we saw play against Ohio, where they only managed to smother up 7 points total. Iowa State, man, a team that is surging at the right time in the second half of the season. Right now, CBS Sports has them going to the Armed Forces Bowl, and if they end up taking on the Raging Cajuns, which is what CBS Sports does have, I think Iowa State would be a favorite in that game, and I think that they could win that game down in Fort Worth, Texas as well. Iowa State really building some momentum here in this last half of the season. And because they do have that bowl game, they're able to go out and build some momentum moving forward, get some extra reps for the guys that are going to be on your roster in 2024 and beyond. Watch out for Iowa State in 2024 for sure. Now, we'll go ahead and jump into that top 20 and what we have going on for sure. Couple of teams that I don't know why Siri just went off there, but that's absolutely crazy. So got a couple of new teams that are in the top 20 that were not ranked last week. Kansas being one of those teams. Kansas, we now have them ranked in the top 20. You want to talk about a resilient team. Kansas is one of those resilient teams. Again, dealing with some health issues at key positions, but they just found a way to continue to be competitive, and Kansas is a perfect microcosm of that. They finished their regular season strong as well. They end up being a team that went on the road to take on Cincinnati. The Bearcats were having their senior night, and Jason Bean, such a dangerous athlete. He's going to be so fun to watch in the bowl season as well. Not only is this a kid that was pretty efficient as a passer in this particular game, 13 for 17, 250 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also had a pair of long runs as well. He only carried the ball 4 times, and he ended up with 90 yards and a couple of touchdowns there too. Jason Bean is just a fun player to watch and really took the air out of Nippert Stadium, to be honest with you, on a senior night, which is absolutely crazy. The more that you think about it, Cincinnati has one of the underrated home field advantages in college football. So to go in there and win convincingly, even though that Cincinnati team is down, that's really impressive. So we have Kansas in the top 20 moving forward. They are not going to the Big 12 championship. They got a few too many losses, but right now they're projected to go to the Guaranteed Rate Bowl to take on Rutgers, which could be an interesting matchup in the early portions of the bowl season. Now, speaking of teams that also haven't been ranked, I want to harp in on SMU. Listen, there's a lot of talk about who should get that New Year's Six bid from the group of 5. A lot of people are saying or it's College Football Playoff Committee, and I'm assuming these rankings are going to come out later tonight. They're going to say Tulane is the best group of 5 team in college football. But honestly, I disagree with that assessment. I think there's another group of 5 team that's going to give Tulane a heck of a ride. SMU, we have them ranked number 19. This is their second appearance in the Evan Getting Saturday poll this year. The only group of 5 team that we do have in our power ratings. I just think this SMU team, this is a team that's ready to go. They are going to be competitive day one in the ACC if they're able to keep this team together over the offseason. That's always a difficult thing to do in terms of, the modern era of the transfer portal and all of these other things happening in college football right now. But SMU was rolling. SMU could have easily cruised through this game. This could have been a letdown moment, as we saw Tulane beat UTSA. So we were wrong about our American Conference Championship pick. So SMU knew who they were going to go up against. This could have been a letdown spot, as Navy desperately needed this game to be bowl eligible. However, didn't let that happen. SMU wins convincingly, 59-14. Preston Stone was elite in this game. I think SMU might have what it takes to pull the upset on Tulane and really create some chaos in that group of 5 race for a New Year's Six spot. I really do think this is the best group of 5 team in America. I'll dive into that American Conference preview potentially later on this week, one way or the other. But this is what 16 through 20 is looking like. Got Texas A&M at 16, Washington at 17, and Clemson at number 18 in the country. Now, we'll keep it moving as we now go into the top 15. This is what top 15 is looking like. Couple of muscle movements here. We saw Iowa State move into the top 25. Kansas State falling back to earth a little bit. And it seems like Kansas State, the model was really high compared to what the rest of the country had Kansas State. I really wanted to refrain from doing any manual corrections because it will eventually play itself out. We're starting to see that here. Kansas State is going to fall 6 spots after their home loss to Iowa State the end of season. Who knows what's going to happen to his Kansas State team in the bowl game. Will Howard did announce that he is going to enter the transfer portal as a grad transfer. So Avery Johnson's season is now here for the Kansas State Wildcats. Really intrigued to see what that ends up looking like. But tough loss for Kansas State, so we moved them down 6 spots. And then Alabama. Alabama was a significant move down as well. We moved them down 5 spots from number 7 to number 12. And listen, rivalry games can be really wonky. They really could. It provides some serious chaos. You never know what can happen on any given Saturday, especially when a rivalry is involved. However, let's just call a bean a bean. Alabama should have lost that game against Auburn, and Auburn got blown out last week against New Mexico State. I don't care if it's a rivalry game or not. That's not acceptable. The only reason Alabama won this game was they're somehow able to convert a 4th and 31 to get the game-winning touchdown. Alabama is very fortunate that they won that game. They should be counting their lucky stars. Now they got to go play Georgia in the SEC championship in what could potentially be seen as a potential play-in, depending on what happens around the country. Speaking of the SEC, we'll jump into the top 10. Got some current and future SEC members in here. LSU at number 9, Georgia at number 7 in the country. They actually had an interesting fight against Georgia Tech. Now about Texas. Texas, we'll talk about them in a little bit. We'll put them to the side for now. But man, is Texas possibly peaking at the right time, given what they did against Texas Tech? Oh my word. Again, we'll jump into that later, but we were impressed by Texas, so we moved them up 5 spots. They're now up at number 6 in the entire country. A true contender for the college football playoff. Don't need a little bit of help, but Texas wins. If they just get just a tad bit of help, just a little bit of help, they're going to be in and competing for a national championship. And Texas is a team that could do some legitimate damage as well. And then finally, the top 5. Top 5, number 1 is the same. I still have Oregon as the number 1 team in all of college football. If Oregon is able to win against Washington, I would have Oregon as my favorite to win a national championship. I'm going to stand by that because, hey, they may not have the best resume, but if you look at the eye test, I think it's almost undisputable that Oregon is the best team in the country right now, given how they played. They've been consistent over the course of the entire season with a couple of hiccups along the way. And in a year in which no team has really distinguished themselves for that national championship hunt, I think this is the type of year where Oregon can indeed win it all. Other thing that I do want to address real quick, yes, Ohio State and Michigan did just play. We saw a version of the game vote, a game in which Michigan did win close on a neutral site, and you take turnovers out of the picture. And trust me, turnovers played a big role in the game. I still think Ohio State would be favored. But a great win by Michigan, not a knock by them. The Wolverines, unlike Ohio State, they completely control their own destiny. They just got to beat Iowa, and they're going to be in. Ohio State, however, going to need a lot of help. And even if everything breaks Ohio State's way, I'm not even sure that guarantees Ohio State getting into the playoff. But you never know what could happen, like we said before, any given Saturday. So that's my top 25 that we have right now. We still have some bowl games. We still have conference championships. Still quite a few things can change. Let me know what you think down in the comments section, what you think about any given Saturday top 25. Do you agree with my assessment or am I blowing some smoke? Let me know in that comment section. I always love chatting with you, the listener. Let's go ahead and talk about that Texas team because we kind of alluded to this earlier, though, in the Any Given Saturday top 25. How about that Texas Longhorn squad? Texas was a team that, yes, was rolling on a 6-game winning streak ever since losing that heartbreaker to Oklahoma in the Red River rivalry. But at the same time, just seemed like a team that maybe possibly is running a little bit low on gas and, looked like a team that isn't familiar with being in a spot to go to college football playoff. We haven't seen Texas in a position to go to the college football playoff since that 4-team format has officially been implemented back in the early 2010s. We've seen them win close against Kansas State, TCU, Iowa State gave them a scare as well. But now we see them rolling. Seems like they started to find their footing. And Texas Tech, by all means, is not a bad team at all. Texas Tech is actually a solid team. A team that disappointed, I would say, this year. If you're looking at disappointments within the Big 12, there was talk before the season where, okay, Texas Tech, they have all of this returning talent. They have one of the best quarterbacks in the Big 12. This is a team that could really make some noise in terms of making it to the Big 12 championship possibly and winning the whole thing, kind of that dark horse kind of deal. We were wrong. That did not happen at all. Texas Tech barely made it to the bowl game. They're going to finish the year 500 and to limp into bowl season, losing by 50. It's a tough look. It is a really tough look for sure. This game was so bad. That we actually got a college debut on our hands. We saw one of the Texas quarterbacks go to work earlier this year. Well, we know about Quinn Ewers. And in the absence of Quinn Ewers, Malik Murphy took over. And Malik Murphy did more than fine. He was, he did enough to make sure that they're going to go and continue to, win games. He wasn't the reason why they lost, but he wasn't the reason why they won either. At least that was my general assessment of Malik Murphy. So they have this 50-point lead, and here's the scenario. You're in the last game of the season. And Arch Manning is a true freshman. Now, the reason why I mentioned that specific point was because current college football rules stipulate that you can play a person up to 4 games, and then after the 4th game, so game 5 and beyond, that's when that red shirt ends up getting burned. Arch Manning was a true freshman. He has not played yet in the entire season. He's been redshirted this whole time. So they have the season finale game, they have the Big 12 championship, and you possibly have a scenario where you have the college football playoff semifinal and possibly a national championship. So there's your 4 games right there. Now that it's going to be safe for Arch Manning to not lose his red shirt, with Texas able to build this lead, and trust me, they absolutely built a lead. They poured it on early and often, especially in that third quarter. The third quarter was the best quarter that the Texas Longhorns had in that entire ball game. I just burped again. That's sexy. They wanted to take a look at Arch Manning, and Arch Manning looked a little bit more comfortable than what he did in spring ball, which is what you really want to see. You really want to see him progress from that aspect. Arch Manning was fine. He wasn't great by any means. 2 for 5, 30 yards. We'll see what happens with that Texas quarterback battle after this season. Malik Murphy is certainly no pushover either. He was named a backup quarterback behind Quinn Ewers and played in meaningful action for a reason earlier this year. But they got to look at the true freshman quarterback, the son of Cooper Manning and Arch Manning. But what happened? How did this turn into a blowout? Well, it just seems like no matter how it started, when it started, it was a tough time for the for that Texas Tech squad, man. First and foremost, Texas Tech was outgained 528 to 198. So Texas Tech could not even muster up 200 yards on the ground. It was hard to watch as a Texas Tech fan for sure. And that was like in there and those points, most of those yards, at least like a quarter of those yards came on a touchdown drive. And that was off of a great field kick return by Dre McCray. So that was how Texas Tech got those only points in the game back in the first quarter. They were able to go out and get good field possession off special teams. So mainly special teams leading to that touchdown against Texas, the only score that they had. Brayman Morton was a guy that was balling out, though. Brayman Morton was someone that came in not necessarily putting up the flashiest stats by any means, but he was a winner by any means. He was 5-0 going into this game. Tyler Shaw was benched. He's been benched for quite a while, since September, when Texas Tech went on that 1-3 start, to say the least. But not today, though. He came back to earth, and Brayman Morton just was never given a chance. Texas was harassing this guy the entire time. He completes barely half his passes. He got 88 yards out of those passes. He completed 20 of them, by the way, and he threw 3 interceptions too. Meanwhile, Quinn Ewers, he was chilling for the most part. Quinn Ewers didn't even have to do much in this game. He was 17 for 26, 196 yards, touchdown, interception. Certainly isn't going to get any Heisman attention by any means, but he did what he was supposed to do and just was a game manager in the game, which there's nothing wrong with that. Not everyone can be this superstar. Oh my God, I can be a superhero and put the team on my back. Not every quarterback's like that. And not every quarterback, now Quinn Ewers, granted, showed that he can occasionally be that superhero, but he hasn't shown it consistently, I would say, over the course of his season. He's a little bit more of a game manager than that superhero archetype, which is not a bad thing at all. Just saying that Quinn Ewers not always considered in that upper echelon of college football quarterbacks. So we're talking about who's the best quarterback in college football. Like, he's not a Michael Penix or Bo Nix type, and that's fine. That's perfectly fine. But it was turnovers as well that really did Texas Tech in. The turnover difference in this one was Texas Tech had 3 turnovers in the game. Quinn Ewers, he only had the 1. Texas also double up Texas Tech on first down. The Longhorns had 27. The Red Raiders, they had 14 first downs. So they were not moving the ball very often at all. Even when Texas Tech got Texas to 4th downs, the Longhorns, they were trying their best to do so. I mean, Texas Tech, they were converted 6 of 8 4th down attempts last year. That was how they ended up beating the Longhorns in Lubbock. They didn't get that. They only had 1 4th down attempt. That was in the first half, and it didn't lead to anything. They failed the 4th down conversion. So, big takeaway in here. What is the big takeaway after a 50-point win, right? We'll talk about the winners first. For Texas, not only do they get to celebrate a big win against a fellow Texas school, they got to see what Arch Manning is about. He's nephew of quarterback royalty of Peyton and Eli. He so got a chance to see what he's all about. And for Texas, they got the Big 12 championship coming up. And again, Texas does need some help to get into the college football playoff, but it's not a lot of help at all. And here's how I look at it from Texas's position. They just need one of the favorites to lose, one of the 3 favorites. I do believe that the Pac-12, no matter what, is going to have a team in the college football playoff. I think that is going to be a given. However, if one of 3 things happen, Georgia loses to Alabama, because Texas does have that win over Alabama, SEC is not guaranteed to have a team in the playoff this year. Let that sink in for a second. So if Alabama beats Georgia, that's one possibility. If either Florida State or Michigan lose in their respective title games, Texas should be able to hypothetically move up, and that would be enough to get them into the 14 playoff this year. Those are all possibilities as well. So Texas, while they don't completely control their own destiny, they also don't need a significant amount of help either in order to get in. Again, though, they would have to handle their business against who they got, and that's Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State is not a bad team at all. Texas Tech, on the other hand, the Texas Tech Longhorns, or not the Tech Longhorns. Oh, I'm going to get killed in the comments for that one. The Red Raiders, this is tough. This is a tough way to end your regular season. Last time that you're going to play your rivals, and, who knows how long. This is a really tough pill to swallow for this Texas Tech football team. They're going to end the year at 6-6. They did, and they had to win 3 of their last 4 games just to be in this spot to be bowl eligible. Crazy look. But Texas Tech, they're going to be in a bowl game because even 5-win teams got in. Minnesota is excited about that. Right now, Texas Tech is projected to go to Independence Bowl against Cal. That's on December 16th. That's in Shreveport, Louisiana. That could be a very interesting early bowl game as well. So Texas Tech could finish the year strong, but honestly, initially, if it's Texas Tech versus Cal, I think Cal might be favored in that game. Cal is an underrated team, and we'll talk about Cal. Actually, no. We're going to do a little bit of an audible right here, right now. Let's go ahead and talk about Cal, because Cal was another team that actually really surprised me as well, right? Because Cal needed this win. They came into this game 5-6. So Cal needed to win this game in order to get the postseason eligibility, to be bowl eligible. UCLA, on the other hand, just doing what they can to do what they want to do, and that's finish the year strong. UCLA was coming off of a big victory against USC. They beat their rivals 38-20, and at least for now, felt like it started to calm down the hot seat a little bit. Or at least that's what we thought. This is a tough way to end your regular season. UCLA will drop their third game in their last 4 weeks. That also includes a loss to Arizona State as well. Now, UCLA did not have the best luck with the quarterback issues. It's been up and down at the quarterback position. Now, UCLA does have a bright future at the quarterback in Dante Moore, 4-star kid out of Detroit, Michigan. He started right away, 1,600 yards, 11 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Going to be his final regular season stats. His QBR is 119th in the country. That's barely good enough to be a starting quarterback at the FBS level, let alone group of 5. So, for all intents and purposes, Dante Moore really was a liability in this ball game, or at least throughout the course of the season. And the Pac-12 has been a difficult conference to navigate. We've seen that in the most recent top 25 matchups, going even back to Washington State. That game went back when Washington State was ranked. It wasn't because of Dante Moore. He had 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. The loss to Oregon State, 1 touchdown, 3 picks. In this game against Cal, with the lights bright, 23 for 38, 266, only threw 1 touchdown, threw multiple picks. So this was a guy that struggled to take care of the football, and that was a difference and a big reason why Cal was not only able to win, but they were also able to win very convincingly as well. Cal was outgained in this game. UCLA actually had more passing yards or more total yards than what this California Bears squad did. It was 380 to 302. Cal was outgained. They had less first downs as well. Turnovers was a difference. Now, it was a sloppy game. Don't get me wrong. Very sloppy, but UCLA was even sloppier. The Bruins had 4 turnovers on the day, whereas Cal only had 2. Not a perfect game by any means for the California Bears, but Cal did not shoot themselves in the foot as much as UCLA did. And that's all you needed to do. That's all that you got to go and get done, is do exactly that. So, great win for Cal, none of the less, for the California Bears. California Bears, they snapped their 3-game losing streak to their in-state rival. And this is a big rivalry that is going to be some serious danger, because Cal is going to the ACC after this season. UCLA is going to the Big Ten after this season. That's difficult to stomach. It really is. This is a game that has been played every year since 1933. But these two teams have not inked a deal in terms of getting together in non-conference action. So this rivalry, and that's the big thing that we're going to lose in these conference realignments, is we're going to lose some of these key rivalry games. And that is certainly going to be a shame. You really do hate to see it. But Cal, they do break their 3-game losing streak against their rivals in UCLA. And if it's the last one that they'll have in a while, at least Cal gets the last laugh. And again, Cal gets the opportunity to be bowl eligible. And we talked about this against Independent in the Texas recap. Because Cal's going bowling, so right now they are projected to go to that Independence Bowl as well. We talked about that Texas Tech team, and Cal is a team that is on the rise and peaking at the right time here a little bit. Texas Tech, though, is a different story. So I would not be surprised if we end up seeing Cal win in that Independence Bowl, if that is how it shakes out, because Cal is currently riding a 3-game winning streak. It may not be against the most impressive teams, Washington State, Stanford, UCLA, but they were underdogs in at least 2 of these games, and they were able to pull it off. So congrats to Cal in order to get yourselves bowl eligible. But UCLA, you still have a constellation prize as well, even if though you have lost 3 of your last 4 games, because UCLA also will get the opportunity to compete in a bowl game this year as well. Ironically, and this is crazy that CBS highlighted it this way. So UCLA, according to CBS Sports, they are currently projected to go to Los Angeles. UCLA is in Los Angeles, so this will be a de facto home game in the sense that they don't even have to travel all that much. I imagine that this site would be at like SoFi Stadium, something along those lines. They would play against UNLV, who's been a success story, a Cinderella out in the Mountain West. UCLA should be favored to win. Don't know if they actually win that game. It just depends on the motivation of that team. And even because even in this rivalry game, UCLA didn't look all that motivated. They were never in the lead at any point in the game. And tough showing for UCLA here. They score 1 touchdown and that's it. And you simply can't do that when you're nearly a 10-point favorite. Just a bad showing here for sure for the UCLA Bruins. But one more game that I did want to go ahead and talk tonight about. And we're going to go all the way to the East Coast for this one. We got a battle between Virginia Tech and Virginia that happened on Saturday. Now, Virginia, for all intents and purposes, Virginia, their season was done no matter what. Virginia was a team that was playing for one thing and one thing only. And they were playing for pride. And sometimes that's all you need in this beautiful game of college football, especially in this modern era where you see more kids in the transfer portal, not because they're sick and tired of not getting playing time. That's not always the case. Sometimes kids are shown the door because they aren't performing at a high enough level or they're just recruiting misses. It happens. Virginia Tech, on the other hand, they were playing for a little bit more. Virginia Tech, sitting at 5-6 going into this game, they were playing for the right to be bowl eligible as well. And for Virginia Tech, that's a positive sign, seeing that this was a team that started just 1-3 in the conference play. That includes losses to Marshall, might I add. Marshall was a little bit of a disappointment in the Sun Belt, might I add. Still bowling, though. And yet, they clawed their way out of it. They continue to fight, and lo and behold, they put themselves in a spot to where, hey, if we just take down our rivals in Charlottesville, Virginia, we'll be bowl eligible. And listen, Virginia was trying its best to play spoiler, but unfortunately, just wasn't enough. Kyron Drones of Virginia Tech, he's only a sophomore, by the way, looked amazing in this game. He threw for 3 touchdown passes in the particular game. Really a clean game. Not in the sense of maybe the flashiest of stats by any means. He completed less than half of his passes, which is not the best thing in the world by any stretch of the imagination. But when he did hit a pass, it went for a big play. His average completion went for, like 20 yards? His average completion was 20 yards. He had a long of 84. And then he also ran for 50 yards too. So nice dual threat quarterback to Kyron Drones. Maybe something that you could build off of going into the future. But he had some help. He had some help as well. Brayshawn Tuden, he was dynamic in both the running game as well as in special teams as well. Tuden, a guy that ended up scoring on a 32-yard scamper as well, on a way to a pretty successful day, actually. 16 carries, 117 yards, and a tutty. So it was a good day overall. But not only did he have a touchdown on the ground, he also had that touchdown on special teams as well. He ended up with that 94-yard kickoff return as well. And that kickoff return really helped set the tone for Virginia Tech to let it be known that, hey, even though we are a favorite, even though we are the big brothers in the state of Virginia. We're going to take you seriously. And it showed by how they came out firing on all cylinders. For example, in the first half alone, not only did Virginia Tech have a significant lead on the scoreboard, but also in total yards as well. Virginia Tech nearly had 300 yards at the half. That is impressive to do no matter who you're going up against, compared to just 60 yards allowed in the game. That's why Virginia did not score at all in the first half. They were not moving the ball to begin with. First downs were too much of a challenge in the first place. So you love to see that. You love to see that type of effort. And Virginia Tech playing some good ball here towards the end of the year. They finished 4-2 in the second half of the season. Granted, the opponents that they play aren't great, but their only two losses are to Louisville and NC State. Those are two teams when you see the college football playoff rankings come out. I'm recording this a couple of hours before the college football playoff rankings actually do come out. Both of those teams will be ranked in the top 25. And that's a big deal. That is actually a massive deal for Virginia Tech, because this is a program that is moving in the right direction. So, biggest takeaway here, Virginia Tech, they use that dual threat ability. And Drones is a big kid as well, by the way, 234 pounds. He moves guys. He gets guys on the ground. He is that dude. So Virginia Tech did a great job utilizing his skill set. And because of this win, Virginia Tech, they have a chance and an opportunity to get some extra practices in. And with it being a younger team, that's a bigger deal for this Virginia Tech program. We'll see the Hokies come out and we'll see how they do in their bowl game. It's a program that has a passionate fan base. They are looking for Virginia Tech to be competitive, not just competitive, but to be one of the top flight programs in the country once again, like they were back in the 2000s. And when Virginia Tech is one of the best in college football, that's a good thing for college football, because pound for pound, Virginia Tech does have one of the best home field advantages in college football. The Enter Sandman is simply a tradition that is completely and totally unmatched, in my opinion. And I'm speaking as a guy that grew up in the Midwest. So, Virginia Tech, their fans do travel well. Right now, CBS has Virginia Tech going to the Military Bowl. They would take on Memphis out of the American Conference if that prediction and projection does end up holding up. So not a far drive from Virginia Tech to Annapolis, Maryland. By the way, been to the Maryland Bowl, the Military Bowl, back in the early 2010s when Cincinnati went, and ironically, it was against this Virginia Tech team. Passionate fan base, so I know that firsthand. There were more fans at that Military Bowl for Virginia Tech than there were for Cincinnati. But this was also in the Tommy Tuberville days, so take that with an absolute great assault. Virginia, though. Virginia, listen, they fought with some pride in the second half of the season. They ended up going 3-for-3 in the second half of the year, but it became clear that they were overmatched from the start. And they're going to have to work on recruiting. They're going to work on having to get more Power 5 caliber bodies through the transfer portal as well, in order to build this Virginia Cavalier program back up, because they didn't even get a first down until their 5th series. So the first 4 times that Virginia had the ball, Virginia was going 3 and out. And that's an issue. That's a major issue when you're going up against your rivals, and you have your rival in your home turf as well. And not only that, they were sloppy in this game as well. They got 2 consecutive roughing the passer penalties. And next thing you know, they were trailing 24-0. And they tried their best to claw back in the second half, but it was already too late. There was nothing that they can do about it. Good learning experience. Hopefully Virginia continues to go in the right direction, because we are pulling for Virginia here on the Any Given Saturday podcast after what we saw recently, in terms of the fact that we saw an extreme tragedy happen on their campus. We're still thinking about them, even though it's a year from today, just about when that tragedy happened, that led Virginia, and rightfully so, to cancel the remainder of their football season. So thoughts and prayers continue to be with the Virginia program. We are rooting for them to continue to ascend back into relevancy, particularly in the ACC. Well, the last thing that I wanted to do before we went ahead and signed off tonight is I want to give you guys my best bets. My best bets for this upcoming week. And we actually did a pretty good job, all things considered, with how we put together our best bets. We ended up going 3 for 5. This is what our 4 for 4 special was last week in terms of betting, and it was a good week overall. Ole Miss and Mississippi State, that Egg Bowl, it was well under 54.5. We nailed that right on the money. Memphis, also a team that dominated their game against Temple, their last game of the regular season. They won 45-24, so they covered at 11.5. So we were doing pretty good here. Notre Dame, they dominated Stanford as well. They get their 9th win of the season, so we were right there as well. The only one that we got wrong was Eastern Carolina. It was still a really close game, but Tulsa was able to win off of a last-second field goal on the road. So Tulsa did beat Eastern Carolina by 2 singular points. We were very close. Tough way to lose, but a great week overall. 3 for 4. We're definitely taking that, no problem whatsoever. But how do we build off of this? How do we build off of the success that we had late in the regular season and taking it in the conference championship weekend? Well, let's go ahead and dive right into that. Let's not wait too much longer. So these bets, I did lock in Monday morning, so they may or may not have changed since the last time I looked at these lines in particular. But generally speaking, when I was looking at the lines on FanDuel, these are what my lines are based off of. I'm looking at the overs. I actually really like the overs in every single conference championship game. I think we're going to be in for an exciting weekend. For those of you that prefer the offensive side of the ball than the defensive side. That being said, though, there are 4 in particular that I love over the others. We're going to start with Friday nights. We'll have one Friday night bet, New Mexico State and Liberty. We got the over here at 53.5. I think that's going to be an exciting game in the Conference USA. Liberty's got a chance to be undefeated, while Jeremy Krill and his guys could get possibly their 11th win. I mean, stuff you don't even hear about unless it's an NCAA 14. Really excited to see how this game plays out. I think we see a good dose of scoring. I got New Mexico State and Liberty with that 53.5. In addition, we go to the SEC Championship next. I think the SEC Championship could be an absolute classic. Georgia and Alabama going up against each other could possibly be considered one of those play-in games for the college football playoff, depending on how things shake out. Georgia, they're going to be in. Alabama might need a little bit of help. They might also need Texas to lose if Alabama finds a way to win. But we're not looking at the spread. We're looking at the over at 55.5. I think we got a pretty good and intriguing matchup here as well. Going to the American. How about the America's Conference? SMU and Tulane going at it. This is a game that is going to be slept on because SMU is likely not going to be ranked in the top 25. Because it's not a top 25 ranked matchup, naturally people are not going to care as much. But this is going to be 2 really good teams going at it. 2 10-win teams in the American, possibly a New Year's Six Bowl on the line for Tulane in particular. But again, not going with the spread. We are sticking with that over. The over on this one, last time we checked, was at 50.5, and we're definitely going to take that as well. Should be a fun game, but we're taking the over. And finally, Sun Belt Championship game. Got the Troy Trojans taking on a team that didn't even win their division technically. James Madison actually won one of the divisions in the Sun Belt, but because of the NCAA probation period from going from the FCS up to the FBS level, they will be not allowed to compete for a Sun Belt championship. Instead, it's Appalachian State, who has been hot as of late. They will go to Alabama to play this Troy Trojan squad for the Sun Belt title. we're really intrigued by how this game goes in the Sun Belt. But in the meantime, we're going with the over here of 51.5. And yeah, that is going to be my best bets. Best of luck if you do decide to gamble. Make sure you do gamble responsibly. There are resources out there if you do have a gambling addiction. Just know that you are not alone. But if you are a responsible gambler and you made it to the end of this podcast, hopefully this is a sign for you to tail some of my bets, or all of them if you want to do that. If you're feeling that kind of spiciness in your life, I want to just help you win some money. That's what it's all about at the end of the day. But that being said, we're going to get ready to sign off for tonight, and I want this to be a little bit on the shorter side because we got something special planned for the next podcast here, you guys. We have a real opportunity to go out and get a comprehensive preview of Conference Championship Weekend. My plan for this towards the end of the week, and I'm not sure of the format yet, but we will preview every single conference championship before conference championship weekend begins. And I am ecstatic for it. I'm excited for it. And I hope you guys are excited for that as well, because it's going to be a fun preview going into conference championship weekend. Could be a culmination of maybe the last time that conference championships will be put on a pedestal, possibly. We'll talk more about that in the next podcast. But if you enjoyed the pod for college football content, I hope you guys enjoyed as well. If you did, make sure you go ahead, smack that like button for me. Because smacking that like button for me, what that lets me know first and foremost is that, hey, you enjoy the content. And I truly do appreciate that from the very bottom of my heart. Also, if you're brand new to the channel and you have a real opportunity to be an A1 since day one, go ahead and hit that subscribe button as well. I would truly appreciate that from the very bottom of my heart. I am your host, Jake. I am going to sign off for tonight, but I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys later this week, hopefully. And with that being said, I hope you guys are all out there having a good one. Take care, everybody.